Welcome into the 2023 Fantasy Baseball Preview for the Tampa Bay Rays. I am Dave Eddy with the handsome host over here, Connor Thomure. We're going to go some Tampa Bay Rays baseball here in a moment, but first I need you to do me a favor. Go ahead, pop on down there and hit that like button for us, and then subscribe to the channel. I would turn on notifications so that you can get alerts every time a new video comes out. If you haven't been paying attention and watching these, we have had a new one come out every day in February, and we're going to continue to do that until we've gotten through all the teams. We were at the tail end now here, of course, but those notifications will help make sure that you don't miss any. And then you got to go ahead on over to fantasy6pack.net/plans. You can sign up for the All Access Pass, which is going to get you access to our award-winning rankings, literally top of the line. We've got some draft tools over there that I promise you will help you, do better in your drafts, if not dominate them. And then we've got the Discord, which is probably my favorite perk, honestly, because you get guys like myself and Connor, at a arm's reach, and talking baseball and talking basketball and golf and field hockey if you really want to, but it's super awesome and something you should definitely check out. But Connor, are you ready to do some Rays baseball talk?
Yep, let's get into it.
All right, we start off here with their starting lineup, and it's not a bad one. Right at the top, we got Yandy Diaz, followed by Wander Franco, Randy Arozarena, Brandon Lau, former Tiger Harold Ramirez, Manny Margot, another former Tiger Isaac Paredes, Christian Betancourt behind the plate, and finished off with Jose Siri. And I want to go ahead and start off at the top here with, probably the biggest name in that lineup, and that's Wander Franco. Now, if he stays healthy, full season, we'll say 155 games, what do you think we're going to see from him, from a fantasy perspective?
I think he will be one of the better shortstops if he's able to stay out there for a full season. I've been looking at some of the projections for him, and Zips is the friendliest projections for Wander Franco. They're projecting like 17 home runs, 88 runs, 80 RBI, 11 stolen bases. So, I could see that happening, but it might be a little bit less depending on, obviously, his health. He's definitely top 12 worthy at shortstop-wise, but I'm not going to be reaching for him either. What do you think about him?
He's probably a guy that I'm never going to draft just because, with the helium from, him being the number one prospect and, people considering him to be a generational talent.
Yeah.
I think that he's going to go higher probably than what he should. Now, I think he's a good player. Don't get me wrong. I do think, though, that Wander, at least at this point in his career, might be a better real-life player than he is a fantasy player.
I agree
and,
with that.
He's good all across the board. He's not great across the board, but he's good across the board, and he doesn't stand out. He's not elite anywhere. I mean, maybe, average is probably, where he might get you the biggest bump, depending on how this offense runs. He obviously could score you quite a few runs, but I think that, shortstop is so deep that I'm going to be grabbing a shortstop before Wander probably goes off the board. And even if I miss out on those shortstops, it's not a guy like Wander who I'm going to take. If I had to, I'd rather just wait and fill other positions and, sit on shortstop for a while. Again, I had mentioned, Wander isn't, elite at anything, but he's good across the board. Maybe the epitome of that, in my opinion, the most underrated player probably in fantasy baseball is Randy Arozarena. Again, not a guy who's elite anywhere, but he is really good all across the board. He doesn't hurt you anywhere. And, he's coming off of a very low-key, underrated 20-30 season last year. I think that he's one of the safer, outfielders in that you can draft, let alone just players in baseball. But what are your thoughts on Randy?
I agree with you completely, so I'll keep it kind of short. I also think he's one of the safest outfielders this year, and I'm locking him into another 20-30 season, and I think he's going to finish right on the edge of the top 10 outfielders, between 9 and 12, somewhere in that range, so he's going to be right in there, I think.
Yeah, he's a guy that, I wouldn't, maybe reach isn't the right term, but he's a guy that, anyone that's in a league with me, if you're waiting on, Arozarena to fall to you, it's not going to happen. I'm going to
Nope.
be grabbing him. And a guy that I know that you like is Yandy Diaz. Talk to me a little bit about, why you think that he's a really good sleeper coming into the season.
Well, he's an on-base machine, first of all, and he's going to be batting at the top of the order and batting in front of Wander Franco and Randy Arozarena, and hopefully a big year from Brandon Lowe incoming. We might see him reach 100 runs, and he's going really late in drafts this year. They have him right now at first base, but I know Roster Resource and Fangraphs have been kind of slipping in between first and third, but either or, he's a guy I'm targeting for the possibly utility spot, corner infielder spot. I think he's going to have a big year.
Yeah, I mean, he could be a guy that, first of all, he'd make a really good, corner infielder. So if he was your starting corner infielder, I think you're in pretty good shape. If you don't end up getting, an elite first baseman and you sit back and wait a little bit, I think even if he was your starting first baseman, assuming, that he's surrounded by, a really good, lineup, I think you could easily argue getting away with him as your starting first baseman isn't the end of the world. He's going to provide you with some unique stats in that position.
Yep, lots of runs and on base percentage.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's move on over to the rotation. Tampa Bay is always interesting because they do some funky things with their pitchers, but they've got some talent there for sure. Starts right at the top with Shane McClanahan, followed by Tyler Glasnow, Drew Rasmussen, Zach Eflin, and Jeffrey Springs. We got to talk about Shane McClanahan because, when this guy is healthy, he's right in the conversation for, best starting pitcher, best stuff in the league.
Yeah.
But it's so often, the case and why I really struggle to like starting pitchers. You've got to worry about, his injury history. And so I guess, where are you looking to draft him, if at all in these leagues this year?
I'm not looking to draft him. I'm going to let him pass right by me unless he falls way deeper, but we know that's not going to happen. Someone's going to be high on him and they're going to want to take him. So I'm avoiding him completely. I know he won't be on my teams. He really did struggle after returning last year from the shoulder injury, and that's, something that can kind of stick around for sure. So I'm avoiding him personally.
Yeah, I mean, he reminds me of, like a Jacob deGrom to some extent because, when healthy, those are arguably the two best pitchers in baseball, I mean, deGrom for sure, but I think you can put McClanahan right in that same mix. But this is why I don't like to draft pitching too early. I usually go hitter heavy because I don't want to put too many eggs in my starting pitching basket. I would prefer to just have a wide assortment of pitchers available and to use these early picks on, what I consider, more safe players and hitters. But we talk about Shane McClanahan, and then we turn around and we've got almost a duplicate of him with Tyler Glasnow. Again, a guy who, if healthy, is an elite starting pitcher. I don't quite think he's as good as McClanahan if healthy, but I mean, I'll be damned if he's not a top 10 pitcher when healthy. So same question then. As it sits right now, is Glasnow at his ADP anyone that you would ever consider drafting? And if so, where?
I am actually thinking about drafting Tyler Glasnow this year. He had back-to-back elbow injuries from 2021 to 2022. But for a couple of reasons, I think he's different than Shane McClanahan. I think, one, he's not being drafted super high like McClanahan is. McClanahan's being drafted right now as a top 10 pitcher, which we'll see about that. Maybe he will be, maybe he won't. But with Glasnow, he's getting drafted a little bit later, and that's fine with me because there's less risk involved with the later picks. Not that he's getting drafted late in the mid rounds. And two, he looked really good in the two or three appearances he made late in the season last year. So I am looking to draft Tyler Glasnow, and we'll call it maybe around round 10. I'll be fine with him there.
And that's just not a spot where I could take him. Again, he'd have to fall to the 20th round before I'd be like, you know what? Tyler Glasnow theoretically could win me this league. I'll take my chance on him, knowing that I could drop him if I had to. He's never going to be around whenever I'm looking to pick him. So I like the idea of him theoretically, but I know that I could never trust either one of these two guys, and as such, zero
Uh-huh.
chance that they'll be on my teams personally. But I do like them both theoretically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and finish it up here with the bullpen. You know, as interesting it is with the Tampa Bay rotation, the bullpen is equally as interesting. We'll start off with Pete Fairbanks in the closer spot here. Seventh and eighth inning guys. Theoretically, we're looking at Jason Adam and Jalen Beeks. Rounding out that bullpen is Sean Armstrong, Garrett Clevenger, Ryan Thompson, Kevin Kelly, and Colin Poche. I mean, Tampa Bay always has a good bullpen in real life,
Hmm.
you know, but they love that closer by committee. And when they're churning out arms just constantly, and everyone is always good. That somebody gets hurt, they bring up another guy, he's just as good.
Uh-huh.
Two more guys get hurt, they bring up two more guys, they're just as good. Um, to me, that's a really strong reason to avoid the bullpen, and I think that's probably the consensus. But I mean, what are your thoughts there?
I actually always target the Rays bullpen throughout the
Okay.
season, not in the
Yeah.
draft, but throughout the season, especially in daily leagues where you could stream relief pitchers. I think that's a good way of racking up innings and racking up strikeouts
So
and
catching the
not
hot hand, you're saying?
exactly, yeah, because they can't pitch every one of these guys every single day of the week. So you find which ones pitch, and then they pitch. You drop them for a different one that hasn't pitched, and they come in and pitch. So you can stream them throughout the week or the month or whatever, and you can get a good amount of stuff from them. So that's my strategy with them.
Yeah, I think that the guys in this bullpen are probably more designed for something like our fantasy six pack series league, where it's saves and holds, because you could take 4 or 5 of these guys and they're all going to be pretty valuable because they're going to have good ratios. You know that.
Yeah,
And then the closer by committee is irrelevant to you because a save is a hold and a hold is a save, and who gives a shit? So I don't care when these guys pitch. I just want them to pitch effectively when they do. And that's the one thing that they've proven is they may not be consistent in where they pitch, but they're consistent in how they pitch. And, in the right league, I think that can be very valuable and maybe even underrated. Um,
exactly. I agree.
but that's going to do it here for our 2023 fantasy baseball preview of the Tampa Bay Rays. Again, go ahead and check out fantasy6pack.net/plans. Look into that all access pass. Like I said, award-winning rankings there, amazing draft tool. And then that Discord is fantastic as well. So I appreciate you tuning in, and hopefully we'll catch you in the Discord.